my name is Josh, and this is Whimsical Industry Musings. And today I'm going to be doing a review for Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth follows the story of Ofelia, who, during the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War, she is enlisted after the death of her father to live in a country estate run by a fascist dictator along with her pregnant mother, Carmen, to essentially live there. While she's exploring the grounds of this new environment and this place that she's doomed to call her new home, she encounters a labyrinth and a fantastical creature known as Pan, who enlists 3 tasks to her in order to prove that she is effectively the reincarnation of a princess once lost to the oceans of time. Is this entire happenstance of fantastical elements in fact real, or are they simply too good to be true? And that's where I'm going to particularly end my synopsis for Pan's Labyrinth, because I want to say right now that if you have not seen this film, you owe it to yourself to see it. It's one of Guillermo del Toro's, in my opinion, it's one of Guillermo del Toro's best films. And if you want to actually watch it, it's on the streaming service Netflix as of this writing, but you can definitely get a copy of it on DVD through CX or Amazon or any other format or anything like that. But I'd recommend go and see it on Netflix while it's there. But I'd recommend getting yourself a physical copy if you can. It's a fantastic film. I absolutely love it. What I really like about this film most of all is it's basically Guillermo del Toro's answer to a fairy tale story. It's basically his callback to a fairy tale in the way it's presented, in the way it feels. But in the same vein, it's also a wonderful examination of that period between one's life where there's childhood and then there's these themes where she essentially is at this point where she has her feet firmly in the realm of fairy tales, but she's also stuck in this world that is very heavily mature and is very much, a very dark area in regards to the fact that she's essentially living in a fascist environment where her actual stepfather, Capitan Vidal, is a absolute puritanical dictator who basically, rations out food whilst he's sitting down to these lavish feasts. He's brutal. He's absolutely, just absolutely awful and horrendous. There is one particular scene in this film where he actually murders someone by bashing a glass bottle on their nose. That's how twisted and how horrifically brutal and cruel this guy is. And I absolutely think he's a fantastic villain. I love how much he has made me hate him. And I really do think that's an incredible element of his character, that no matter what he does, there's no moment of sympathy for him. There's no moment where you actually do find yourself going, oh, I can see what he's doing. There are no moments like that with this character. But yeah, this entire film is a examination of childhood versus experience and that kind of threshold that you cross between those two areas of life. But one of the themes that I think this film also explores, and this is particularly held apparent in the 3 tasks, in the sense that it both talks about the idea of experience. I beg your pardon. It talks about the idea of obedience and what is obedience for the sake of doing the right thing and what is obedience for the sake of obeying something. And that kind of ties in very nicely to the whole entire fascist Spain sort of dynamic. In fact, there's a character in the film who's a doctor who basically has this speech about Capitan Vidal tortures a soldier, and he asks the captain, who is also secretly a part of the resistance that's hiding in the hills of the mountains, and he basically asks him to, keep him alive, do whatever you can to heal his wounds, but we need to keep him alive because he's been telling us all sorts of information about the resistance. And he finds out through some means or another that the doctor's a part of it, but there's also a moment where he says, I gave you a direct order to do whatever you can to keep him alive, and you disobeyed the order. And the doctor just says, well, that's a funny thing, isn't it? I cannot see myself to obey someone like you just for the sake of obeying. I did what I judged to be right, and if I'm allowed to live knowing that I just obey orders just for the sake of obeying, just so I can be kept alive. That's something that I cannot do. And he just walks away, and then Captain Vidal shoots him because he disobeyed an order. And I think that was such a brilliant moment because it ties the theme together as well. But also, it also does a very good job on Ophelia's part, because in the tasks, there are several tasks. There's 3 tasks that she does. One where she needs to get a key, and in order to do that, she needs to go inside this tree, which is absolutely muddy and filthy, and all sorts of those things. But she needs to take off a item of clothing that her mother bought her to celebrate, this grand party that the captain's hosting later on in the evening. And her mother's actually bought her this dress, and she says, "Oh, you look lovely in it, you look like a princess." And she has to basically go inside this tree to get this key. So she decides to take off her dress and actually put it on a branch just to rest while she goes and gets this key. But then while she's in there, a wind picks up and it blows her dress all the way to sort of like this muddy heap. So her dress is stained, and she has to go back to, clean herself in the bath. And her mother's furious. She says, "When you've finished with your bath, you need to go to bed without supper. Do you understand me?" And she says something like, "Oh, well, sometimes I'll learn. I wonder if you're ever going to behave." And she feels very happy, but more for the fact that she's disappointed the captain more than anything else. But she doesn't quite understand what that's actually meant. So I really do like the idea that she succeeds in getting the key, but she also, as a result of getting the key, she fails or disappoints her mother in some way. Like in the second task, she has to get an item, but one of the main caveats of the task is that she cannot eat anything during her stay. There's this large room with this grand feast that, of course, one of the more famous characters of the entire film, the Pale Man, is at the end of it, and if she eats or drinks anything, she'll probably be eaten by him. And that's effectively what happens. She gets the item that she needs to complete the third task, but she ends up, disobeying the rules because she eats something during her stay, which is something that she cannot do. And I really do like the fact that it does kind of play those parallels very well. And there's so many moments like that where the themes of obedience for the sake of obeying an order, just because you'll survive, versus or you'll get what you want, versus what's actually the right thing to do, is one of the key elements that I really like about this film, and how Guillermo del Toro pieces all those elements together very well, and how he's able to kind of contrast this wonderful, almost Gothic in style fantasy setting with the harshness of the Spanish Civil War, the bloodshed, the violence, what Capitan Vidal is capable of, the torture, the scene where he actually breaks someone's nose with a glass bottle. There's so many moments like that where it just really is wonderfully shocking, but it also does a very good job of not being too over the top. He knows when to show the brutality and when to cut away, and I like that idea, because he could have very easily shown the brutality of the torture scene during the scene where he has one of the resistance members in the barn, but he doesn't. He cuts away when he just feels that edge of, all that flinching from the audience, or that jolt from the audience. He'll cut away, and I really like that. He knows when to say stop. We're going to go back to Ofelia now. And there's another moment where that happens, where a character gets shot in the leg, and it's so brutal and it's so bloodied that they literally have to remove it. They have to amputate it. And when they have the saw come out, there's this wonderful moment where he's just about to cut into the leg, and you hear the bone crunch as he's pulling the saw back, and he's about to cut in. But then just as you hear the sound, you cut to Ofelia again, and she's about to open the book. And I really love that, because it really shows that contrast. It's almost like the director is saying, quick, cut your eyes, but then just as you're about to look away, he'll just, cut to another scene. It's almost like Guillermo del Toro is entertaining the idea that this is all happening inside Ophelia's head, that just as she's about to experience the brutality of the world, the absolute cruel brutality, she cuts away or she closes her eyes just to show that, you know, she doesn't want to see it. She wants to go back to her fairy tale world. And that's kind of like the way life is in general. Like, we don't want to see brutality. We don't want to see, you know, the brutality of the world. We want to find escapism. We don't want to know that when we get to this time of year, Halloween, we don't want to see that, you know, the world is a depressing, dark place. We want to see Halloween as, because when Halloween was originally created, it was more a kind of breaching of the real material world, mankind's world, with the spirit world. And when Halloween night takes place, the barrier between the living and the dead is kind of broken, and the spirits of the world kind of come in and cause chaos and havoc and mischief. But we like to see it now as a celebration where we get to, you know, dress up in costumes, and we get to go out trick-or-treating, or sometimes we'll stay in and watch horror films. Or if you were around during the height of the Saw craze, you'd go to the cinema just to go and see one of the Saw films. So it's one of those things where we like to see the celebration and the pageantry and things, but we don't like to see the brutality in a lot of things. And I think that's something that's often the case with a lot of us. We like to, you know, see the fun and the excitement in things. And that's kind of what Ophelia's doing. She wants to go into the escapism. She wants that escape. So that's why I think this entire film is told from the point of view. And what's really great about this film is you never quite know whether the stuff that's happening to Ophelia is in fact real, or whether it's the product of her own imagination, that her own trauma is literally, you know, creating these creatures so that she can get away from it. And I think what's very interesting is that the Pale Man is in fact meant to be sort of a symbol of the Spanish Civil War as a whole, like the fascist movement of people like Mussolini and Hitler and all these other great, you know, powerful figures in world history, in the sense that he has this entire banquet of food, but at the same time, all he wants is blood. All he wants is the blood of the innocent, the blood of the poor, and all the rest of it. It's like that scene in at some point in the film, but there's so many great moments during this film where I feel like there's so much attention to detail and so much love put into every single frame. And it's just one of Guillermo del Toro's masterpieces. And like I said, if you haven't seen this film, you owe yourself to watch it. It's one of my favourite Guillermo del Toro films. I know a lot of people have their favourites. Some people might say, oh, it's the Hellboy films, or it's Blade 2, or it's Kronos, or it's The Devil's Backbone, or it's any of these sorts of films, or even Pinocchio, or any one of his films. But I think one of my favourites, or even The Shape of Water, the one that won Best Picture a few years ago. That's a good film as well, but my heart will always belong to Pan's Labyrinth, I feel like, because that film really did feel like, the more I watch it, the more I pick up on all these little details. And because with the nature of my show, it's a review, I literally have to, like Red Letter Media, I have to literally review the thing. So when I was rewatching it for this particular video, I found myself picking up all these different details and all these new elements that really do kind of play into, you know, my own theory that this could be inside Ophelia's head. Because there's another scene where she goes to open the book for the second time, and she goes to the book, okay, show me, like show me what I have to do next. And then when she opens the book, there's like this sea of red, and you hear this faint little screaming, or this faint little crying, almost like a baby cry or a woman screaming. And then she just shuts the book from shock and thinks to herself, what the hell is going on? But then she hears that, you know, her mother is bleeding, and she's like, oh my God, I need to help her. And that's almost like, no matter what she tries to do, she tries to escape from the real world, but then she realises that no, the real world is very much material, very much real, and it's going to burst in any minute and really interrupt this fantasy that I'm having, that I'm this princess of this faraway kingdom. And it's really well done, and I really like the fact that no matter what happens in the film, you're kind of going back and forth between thinking, is this all inside Ophelia's head, or is this all the product of or is this all pretty much real, or is this all pretty much a product of her own imagination? It goes back and forth, and they even highlight that with her being a little bit too old for fairy tales, but she still loves them, she still enjoys them, she still tells her stories to her baby brother who's inside her mother's womb when she's, you know, tired or when she's feeling particularly restless. And I really like that she has this almost liking for fairy tales or interest in fairy tales, because that sort of adds to the believability that this could all be happening inside her head. So there's so many great moments like that, but I honestly think this film is fantastic. And I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But if you have seen it, what did you think of this film? Let me know of your theories and your thoughts of this film down in the comments. And let me know also, do you actually agree with me? Do you actually think that this is all a product of Ophelia's own imagination, of how she deals with her traumatic scenario of being inside this world where she's basically exposed to pain and anguish and all these other things? And let me know what you think about all that. And whatever your thoughts are about the film in general, let me know. Comment down below and be sure to let me know. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And I hope you're all having a very good day. That's my thoughts on Pan's Labyrinth. And this has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings. I hope you're all doing very well. Take care. Bye-bye for now.